In a quaint, sunlit town where the days flowed like the gentle breeze, a 16-year-old girl named Lily navigated the intricacies of adolescence with a mix of innocence and curiosity. Lily had a natural beauty that blossomed like wildflowers in spring. Her hair cascaded in soft waves, a rich chestnut hue catching the sunlight, while her emerald green eyes sparkled with an unquenchable thirst for adventure. Despite her youthful exuberance, there was a hint of maturity in her gaze, an awareness of the complexities of life beyond her years. One warm afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets, Lily found herself wandering to the town's bookstore, a sanctuary of imagination and knowledge. The air was filled with the scent of aged paper and fresh ink, a comforting aroma that wrapped around her like a warm embrace. As she perused the aisles, her fingers brushed against the spines of countless novels, each one a portal to a different world. It was there that she first encountered Daniel, a 35-year-old man who often visited the store. He was a striking figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair flecked with silver, hinting at the wisdom gained from life's experiences. His deep blue eyes held a depth that captivated Lily, a stormy sea of emotions that seemed to echo her own unspoken feelings. Daniel was often lost in thought, browsing through volumes of literature that reflected his sophisticated taste. Lily had observed him from afar during her previous visits, intrigued by the way he immersed himself in the written word. There was something magnetic about him, an allure that drew her in, igniting a spark of something unfamiliar within her heart. She had never felt this way before, and it both excited and terrified her. On this particular day, as she browsed through the poetry section, she overheard Daniel conversing with the store owner. His voice was rich and soothing, weaving tales of literature and life experiences that resonated deeply. As she inched closer, captivated by his words, a book tumbled from the shelf, landing with a soft thud at her feet. "Oh!" Lily exclaimed, bending down to pick it up. As she did, she looked up, and her breath caught in her throat as she found herself locked in Daniel's gaze. "Thank you," he said, a warm smile spreading across his face, illuminating his features. "I suppose that book wanted to find a new home." Lily's heart raced. "It seems so," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with an undercurrent of shyness. "I'm Daniel," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "Lily," she responded, shaking his hand gently. The brief contact sent a jolt of electricity through her, leaving her momentarily breathless. As they engaged in light conversation about their favorite authors, Lily felt a rush of exhilaration. Each word exchanged felt like a thread weaving their lives together, the fabric of connection becoming increasingly tangible. Despite their age difference, there was an undeniable chemistry, an attraction that swirled in the air like a hidden melody waiting to be discovered. With every fleeting glance, Lily's mind raced with thoughts that danced on the edge of her conscience. "This is silly. He's much older than me. What could he possibly see in a girl like me?" But there was a part of her that dared to dream, to envision a world where love knew no boundaries, where age was merely a number, not a barrier. As their conversation deepened, Lily found herself opening up in ways she hadn't anticipated. She spoke of her aspirations, her dreams of becoming a writer, pouring her heart into her words like ink on a blank page. Daniel listened intently, his eyes reflecting a genuine interest that made her feel seen, valued, cherished. "Your passion for storytelling is inspiring," he said, a warmth in his voice that wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. "Never let anyone stifle that light within you." For the first time, Lily felt understood. She had always been the dreamer, the one who saw the world through a lens of imagination, but no one had ever truly recognized the fire that burned within her. As they parted ways, Lily's heart soared, each step resonating with the thrill of possibility. She glanced back at Daniel, who was still engrossed in a book. A sense of longing welled up inside her, a wish to know him better, to explore the uncharted territory of their connection. But reality soon washed over her like a cold wave. "He's an adult. He has a life, responsibilities, and I'm just a kid." The thoughts crept in, trying to douse the flames of hope she had ignited within her. Yet that evening, as she lay in bed, the the memory of their conversation replayed in her mind, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth and anticipation. She found herself dreaming of a world where love could flourish, even in the most unexpected places. In the days that followed, Lily returned to the bookstore frequently, each visit becoming a beacon of hope. Every encounter with Daniel felt like a delicate dance, a balancing act between the thrill of newfound emotions and the weight of societal expectations. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, laughter punctuating the air as they explored the realms of literature and life, sharing snippets of their worlds. Yet, with each passing moment, Lily grappled with her feelings. Her heart was a battlefield of longing and doubt, the line between admiration and love blurring in the face of reality. What if this is just a fleeting crush? What if it's more? The questions echoed in her mind like an unanswered prayer. Little did she know, Daniel was experiencing his own turmoil, a storm of emotions brewing within him as he tried to navigate the complexity of their connection. As he observed Lily, her youthful spirit and passionate heart, he felt a sense of nostalgia, a reminder of the dreams he once held close. But he also recognized the precarious nature of their situation, the potential for heartbreak looming like a dark cloud. Their interactions became a tapestry of shared smiles, unspoken words, and lingering glances, each moment steeped in a mixture of joy and uncertainty. As days turned into weeks, Lily and Daniel's encounters at the bookstore grew more frequent, each meeting acting like a spark igniting a fire within them. Their conversations evolved from casual banter about favorite authors to deeper discussions about dreams, fears, and the complexities of life. The air crackled with an unspoken connection, the tension palpable yet exhilarating. On one particularly crisp afternoon, the bookstore was quieter than usual, the sun streaming through the tall windows, casting soft shadows on the polished wooden floor. Daniel was perched on a cozy armchair, a worn novel resting in his hands. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his blue eyes danced with a mix of amusement and contemplation as he read. Lily observed him from a distance, her heart fluttering with anticipation. After a moment's hesitation, she approached, her footsteps light on the wooden floor. "Hey, are you lost in another world?" she teased, a playful lilt in her voice. Daniel looked up, his expression shifting from absorbed focus to a warm smile that made her heart skip a beat. "Just exploring the vastness of human emotion, as usual. Care to join me?" She settled into the chair across from him, her heart racing as she leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "What's the best part so far?" He chuckled softly, the sound reverberating in the cozy space. "The part where the protagonist discovers love amidst chaos. It's beautifully tragic, isn't it?" Lily felt a pang of resonance within her. "It really is. Love can be so complicated but also the most beautiful thing." Daniel studied her for a moment, his gaze intense, as if he were searching for something hidden beneath her words. "What do you think makes love beautiful?" She paused, her mind racing with thoughts. "I think it's the vulnerability it brings. Allowing someone to see your true self, to share your fears and dreams. It's terrifying yet exhilarating." Her voice trailed off as she felt the weight of their unspoken feelings linger in the air. "Is this what love feels like?" The question danced on her mind, igniting a whirlwind of emotion she struggled to comprehend. Daniel nodded slowly, his expression contemplative. "It is terrifying. But perhaps that's what makes it so real." He leaned back in his chair, the slight distance between them suddenly feeling like an insurmountable barrier. Lily's heart ached with the realization that while they shared an undeniable connection, there were forces at play that could pull them apart. The mere thought of it sent a shiver down her spine. What if this is just a fantasy? As the afternoon light faded, the shadows grew longer, enveloping them in an intimate cocoon. Daniel shifted slightly, the air between them thick with unexpressed feelings. "You know, Lily," he began, his voice low and earnest, "sometimes I wonder what it would be like if we could disregard the world's expectations. What if we simply lived in the moment?" The words hung in the air like an unspoken promise, igniting a fire within Lily. What if? Her heart raced as she imagined a reality where their connection could flourish without judgment or consequences. But doubt quickly followed. But the world doesn't let us do that, does it? There are rules, boundaries. Sometimes boundaries are meant to be broken, he said softly, his eyes searching hers, trying to bridge the chasm of uncertainty. Lily felt her breath catch. What is he saying? The thrill of his words danced through her, mingling with the fear of the unknown. She could feel the longing swelling inside her, threatening to spill over. Do you really believe that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I believe in love, he replied, his gaze unwavering. And I believe it can transcend age, circumstance, even societal norms. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Lily's heart thundered in her chest, the words resonating deep within her. Could love truly be that powerful? The thought was intoxicating, pulling her closer to Daniel, as if they were two celestial bodies destined to collide. But reality crashed back in, bringing with it the weight of their age difference and societal expectations. But what would people say? She asked, her voice trembling with vulnerability. What if they don't understand? Let them talk, he said with conviction, his expression resolute. What matters is how we feel. If this, whatever this is, brings us joy, isn't that enough? The conviction in his voice stirred something deep within her. What if they were right? What if their connection was worth the risk? Yet, in the depths of her heart, uncertainty gnawed at her. She was still a girl navigating the turbulent waters of adolescence, while he was a man steeped in experiences and responsibilities. Could they truly find common ground? With a heavy sigh, Lily leaned back, her gaze drifting to the windows where the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I don't know, she admitted, her voice laced with uncertainty. It feels so complicated. Daniel reached across the space between them, his hand brushing against hers. The touch was electric, sending warmth coursing through her veins. Sometimes, the most complicated paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. Just remember, I'm here with you, no matter where this leads. His words wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, but the shadows of doubt still loomed large. What would happen when the world intruded? As the bookstore began to close, Lily reluctantly stood up, feeling the weight of the moment slip away like sand through her fingers. I should go, she said, though her heart yearned to stay, to explore the depth of their connection just a little longer. Daniel rose as well, his presence grounding her amidst the whirlwind of emotions. I'll walk you home, he offered, a gentle smile gracing his lips. The walk through the dimly lit streets felt surreal. The quietness enveloped them, broken only by the sound of their footsteps echoing on the pavement. The world around them faded into a blur, leaving only the two of them standing on the precipice of something beautiful yet terrifying. As they approached her house, Lily felt a pang of sadness. The night air was cool, brushing against her skin like a tender caress. She turned to face Daniel, the moment heavy with unspoken words. Thank you for today, she said, her voice soft. It was my pleasure, he replied, his eyes glimmering with something deeper. I always enjoy our time together. In that moment they stood close, the space between them crackling with unexpressed emotions. Lily could feel her heart pounding, each beat resonating with the potential of what could be. As she looked into Daniel's eyes, she felt an overwhelming urge to bridge the gap, to close the distance that kept them apart. But before she could act on that impulse, he stepped back slightly, a hint of hesitation creeping into his expression. I should get going, he said, though the reluctance in his voice betrayed his true feelings. Yeah, of course, she replied, disappointment flickering in her chest. As they exchanged goodbyes, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their connection was a fragile thread, one that could easily unravel with the weight of the world pressing down on them. She watched him walk away, his silhouette fading into the darkness, leaving her with a swirling mix of hope and uncertainty. What if love was worth the risk? The question echoed in her mind as she closed the door behind her, the weight of reality settling back in. She longed for the freedom to love, yet the constraints of the world felt suffocating, a cage that held her heart captive. That night, as she lay in bed, the stars twinkling outside her window, she allowed herself to dream of a world where love knew no boundaries, a world where she and Daniel could explore the depths of their connection without fear. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Lily. The moments spent with Daniel danced vividly in her mind, replaying like a beautiful melody that refused to fade. Yet the reality of their situation hung heavily over her like a cloud, casting a shadow on her budding feelings. Each day, she returned to the bookstore, her heart racing at the thought of seeing him again. The anticipation both thrilled and terrified her, as if she were standing on the edge of a precipice, peering down into the unknown. What if they could bridge the gap between their worlds? But what if the world around them wouldn't let them? One afternoon, as she organized the shelves, her thoughts drifted to Daniel and their last conversation. His words echoed in her mind. Sometimes, the most complicated paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. The idea lingered like a flame, warming her heart but also filling her with a sense of dread. Could she really step into that complexity? Just then, the familiar sound of the bell chimed as the door swung open. Lily looked up, her heart leaping at the sight of Daniel. He walked in with that easy confidence that made her breath catch, a simple gray sweater draped over his broad shoulders, the hint of a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Hey, stranger," he greeted, his voice smooth like honey. "Missed me?" "Always," she replied, a playful smirk crossing her face. "What book have you brought to distract me today?" Daniel chuckled, stepping closer, his gaze scanning the shelves. "Actually, I was hoping to find something new to read. But I have a feeling the best stories are unfolding right here." He looked at her, the intensity of his gaze sending a thrill through her. Lily felt her cheeks warm at the compliment, her heart racing as she returned his gaze. "You're just saying that to flatter me," she teased, trying to mask the fluttering in her chest. "Maybe," he replied, his tone serious yet playful. "But I really do enjoy our conversations. They feel different." "Different how?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Real," he said simply, his expression softening. "You make me feel like I can be myself without pretense." Lily's heart swelled at his words, the sincerity of them igniting something deep within her. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the space between them, but the weight of their circumstances pulled her back. What if he feels differently when he's away from me? "Do you have any plans for the weekend?" Daniel asked, breaking the momentary silence. She hesitated, the idea of spending more time with him both exhilarating and daunting. "Not really." "Why?" "I was thinking we could go to that new art exhibit downtown. It could be fun," he suggested, his eyes sparkling with excitement. The thought sent a thrill through her. "An outing with Daniel? That sounds amazing," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'd love to." "Great! I'll pick you up at noon then," he replied, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. As they chatted, time seemed to slip away, each moment thick with unexpressed feelings. Lily felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was a step forward, yet the uncertainties lingered like ghosts. What if they encountered the judgment of the world? Would their connection survive the scrutiny? As they said their goodbyes, Lily walked home, her mind racing. The thought of the upcoming weekend sent her heart into overdrive. What if this changes everything? The day of the art exhibit arrived, and Lily found herself standing before her mirror, a flurry of emotions swirling within her. She chose a simple yet elegant dress that highlighted her figure without being too revealing. As she applied a touch of makeup, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. When the doorbell rang, her heart raced. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find Daniel standing there, looking effortlessly handsome in a crisp shirt and dark jeans. The way he looked at her made her stomach flutter, as if the world outside ceased to exist. "You look stunning," he said, his eyes brightening as he took her in. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a warmth wash over her. "You clean up nicely too." As they walked to his car, the air crackled with anticipation. They shared stories and laughter, the drive filled with light-hearted banter. But as they neared the art exhibit, an unshakable tension settled between them, a mix of hope and fear. Arriving at the gallery, the atmosphere buzzed with creativity, the walls adorned with vibrant artworks that seemed to pulse with life. As they wandered through the exhibit, Lily marveled at the different pieces, each one evoking unique emotions. "This one speaks to me," Daniel said, pointing to a striking painting of a turbulent sea. "It's chaotic yet beautiful." "I feel the same way," Lily replied, her heart pounding as she glanced at him. "It reminds me of the complexities of life." "Exactly," he said, turning to her, their eyes locking. "Life can be messy, but it's those messes that create the most beautiful stories." In that moment, surrounded by art and color, the connection between them deepened. Lily felt a magnetic pull toward Daniel, the weight of the world falling away as they stood close, the soft sounds of the gallery fading into the background. "What if we made our own story?" Daniel asked, his voice low and filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. Lily's heart raced at the thought. "What if they could?" "You mean just us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I think we already are." The moment hung between them, electric and full of promise. But the flicker of doubt flashed in her mind. Could they really embark on this journey together? As they moved on to the next exhibit, the tension lingered, wrapping around them like a cocoon. They explored different pieces, but Lily found it hard to focus on anything but Daniel. Each glance, each shared smile felt loaded with unspoken words, a tension that demanded to be released. Finally, they stepped into a quieter corner of the gallery, surrounded by an ethereal painting of a starry night sky. Lily turned to Daniel, her breath catching in her throat. "This feels like a dream," she admitted, her voice trembling with honesty. "Then let's dream together," he said softly, reaching for her hand. Lily's heart soared at the gesture. Their fingers intertwined, a simple yet profound connection that sent waves of warmth through her. It felt right, as if they were finally embracing what had been building between them. "Lily," Daniel began, his expression serious yet tender, "I want you to know that whatever happens, I care about you deeply. This, whatever we have, it's real for me." Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes, the weight of his words settling over her like a warm blanket. "I feel the same way," she replied, her voice earnest. "But it's scary, Daniel. The world doesn't always understand." "Let them judge," he said, his grip tightening on her hand. "We deserve our happiness, no matter what form it takes." In that moment, all the doubts and fears began to dissolve. Perhaps they could carve their own path, one where love transcended age and expectations. As she gazed into his eyes, she felt the walls she'd built around her heart beginning to crumble, leaving only the raw, vulnerable truth. The evening continued, their connection deepening with every shared laugh and whispered conversation. As they stepped outside, the night air wrapped around them, cool and refreshing. The stars twinkled above, illuminating their path as they made their way to the car. Lily felt a sense of exhilaration mixed with anxiety. She had taken a leap, and now there was no turning back. The potential for love blossomed between them, but with it came the weight of reality, lurking like a shadow. "What's on your mind?" Daniel asked, his gaze shifting to her as they drove through the quiet streets. "I'm just thinking about how different our worlds are," she confessed, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "What if it's too complicated?" "Maybe complications are what make life interesting," he replied, his tone lightening. "After all, what's life without a little risk?" Lily smiled, the tension in her chest easing slightly. "You're right. It's just hard to navigate sometimes." "Together," he said, his voice firm and reassuring. "We can figure it out together." As they arrived back at her house, Lily's heart raced. This was the moment where everything could change. She could feel the electric energy between them, the unspoken words hanging thick in the air. "Thank you for today," she said, turning to face him. "It was perfect." "It really was," he agreed, his eyes softening. As she opened the car door, a surge of courage washed over her. "Daniel, wait!" She turned to him, her heart pounding. Can I kiss you?" A smile broke across his face, illuminating the evening. "I thought you'd never ask." As their lips met, it felt like the world around them faded away. It was a gentle, hesitant kiss at first, filled with the sweetness of new beginnings. But as they melted into one another, the kiss deepened, igniting a fire that had been waiting to burst forth. The kiss was a culmination of everything they had shared, a promise of what was to come. When they finally pulled away, breathless and wide-eyed, Lily knew this was just the beginning. "Good night, Lily," Daniel whispered, his voice soft and filled with warmth. "Good night," she replied, her heart soaring as she stepped inside her house. The door clicked shut behind her, but the warmth of Daniel's presence lingered, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. As she leaned against the door, a smile broke across her face. Maybe they could navigate this unknown together. Maybe they could write their own story, one that defied the expectations of the world. With that thought, she drifted off to sleep, her heart light and hopeful, dreaming of a future filled with possibility. Lily's heart swelled with excitement and trepidation as the days turned into weeks. After their kiss, things between her and Daniel had shifted, deepening their bond in ways she had only imagined. They spent more time together, sharing meals, wandering through parks, and stealing moments of laughter amidst the backdrop of their chaotic lives. Each encounter further blurred the lines between friendship and something more. Yet, with every beautiful moment came the ever-looming reality of their circumstances. Each time they stepped outside, Lily felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. The whispers and judgment from family, friends, and society lurked just beneath the surface, threatening to unravel the fragile tapestry they had woven together. One evening, as they strolled through a quaint neighborhood lit by soft street lamps, Lily could sense Daniel's unease. He seemed preoccupied, his gaze flickering toward the ground as they walked side by side. "Daniel?" she asked, breaking the silence. "What's on your mind?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair, the moonlight catching the worry etched on his features. "I've been thinking about us. About what happens next." The lump in her throat tightened as she braced herself for the weight of his words. "What do you mean? I know we've been enjoying our time together, but I can't shake the feeling that we're living in a bubble. The moment we step outside of it, reality hits. You're 16 and I'm, well, much older. It complicates everything." Lily felt a rush of emotions, fear, anger, and sadness all mingling together. "But we're happy, aren't we? Isn't that what matters?" "Of course," he replied quickly, his gaze meeting hers. "But happiness can sometimes be short-lived when faced with the harshness of reality. I just want to make sure we're prepared for what lies ahead. Do you want to stop?" The question slipped from her lips, fragile and uncertain. "No. Not at all." He took a step closer, his expression earnest. "I want to continue this. I just think we need to be aware of the challenges we'll face. I don't want to hurt you, Lily." His concern felt like a double-edged sword, slicing through the warmth that had built between them. "But love isn't supposed to be easy," she countered, her heart racing. "Isn't it worth fighting for?" "It is," he agreed, his voice steady. "But it's also important to be realistic. I can't be the reason you face backlash or hardship. You deserve a life without complications." Lily's heart sank as she processed his words. The reality of their situation hung heavily in the air, threatening to overshadow the beautiful connection they had forged. What if we could prove them wrong? What if we could create our own path, one where age doesn't matter? Daniel paused, his gaze drifting toward the street ahead, lost in thought. "You're incredibly brave, and I admire that. But it's not just about us. What about your family? Your friends? They're going to have their opinions. They don't have to understand," she replied fiercely. "This is about us. They'll come around. Lily, I don't want to put you in a position where you have to choose between me and your loved ones," he said gently. "You're still so young, and I've lived long enough to know how quickly things can spiral." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around them, mirroring the storm brewing in her heart. "So, what are you suggesting? That we just stop seeing each other? Pretend this never happened?" "I'm not saying that," he insisted, his voice rising slightly. But I think we need to be realistic. We should talk about our expectations and what we want for the future. The disappointment that settled over her was suffocating. I want you, Daniel. Isn't that enough? He stepped back, his expression conflicted. It's not just about us right now. It's about everything else, the consequences, the judgments. I care too much about you to let this become a burden you can't carry. The words stung, cutting deep into her heart. I can handle it, Daniel. I can handle anything if it means being with you. Lily, he said softly, reaching for her hand. You're incredible, but love shouldn't come with this kind of heaviness. I don't want to be the reason you feel trapped. The tears threatened to spill as she pulled her hand away. So what now? We just keep pretending everything is fine? I'm not suggesting that. I just think we need to take a step back, think this through, he urged, his eyes searching hers. What does that even mean? She whispered, her heart aching. It means we should slow down, he replied, the weight of his words hanging between them. I want to make sure you're ready for whatever comes next. I care about you too much to rush into something without considering the consequences. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Lily felt the air between them grow heavy with unspoken fears and uncertainties. The warmth that had enveloped them began to dissipate, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. I don't want to slow down, she said finally, her voice trembling. I want to live in this moment. I want to be with you. Why can't you see that? Because I do see it, he exclaimed, his voice thick with emotion. I see how special this is. But I also see the risk. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Love? She shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. You can't protect me from love, Daniel. It's messy and complicated, but it's also beautiful. And I want to experience that with you. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of frustration and anguish. This isn't easy for me either, Lily. I want you in my life, but I need to know we can handle the world's judgment together. I don't want to cause you pain. The intensity of their emotions hung thick in the air, creating a chasm that felt insurmountable. She could see the turmoil in his eyes, the battle between wanting to be with her and fearing the consequences of their love. I don't know if I can do this if it means we have to step back, she said softly, her heart aching with the thought of losing him. Daniel's shoulders slumped, his gaze falling to the ground. I don't want to lose you either, but I think we need to figure out what we truly want. A heaviness settled in the pit of her stomach, the uncertainty washing over her like a cold wave. So, what happens now? She whispered, her voice barely audible. We take some time to think, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I just want you to be sure about what you want. I need to know that we're in this together, without any doubts. Lily nodded, feeling a mix of heartbreak and understanding. They stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them, both unwilling to take that final step back but unsure of how to move forward. I'll see you around, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. Yeah, she replied, her heart aching as they turned to leave. As she walked away, the reality of their situation crashed down around her. The possibility of losing Daniel loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow everything they had built together. She felt hollow, as if a piece of her heart had been wrenched away, leaving only emptiness in its wake. Lily's heart swelled with excitement and trepidation as the days turned into weeks. After their kiss, things between her and Daniel had shifted, deepening their bond in ways she had only imagined. They spent more time together, sharing meals, wandering through parks, and stealing moments of laughter amidst the backdrop of their chaotic lives. Each encounter further blurred the lines between friendship and something more. Yet, with every beautiful moment came the ever-looming reality of their circumstances. Each time they stepped outside, Lily felt the weight of the world pressing down on her. The whispers and judgment from family, friends, and society lurked just beneath the surface, threatening to unravel the fragile tapestry they had woven together. One evening, as they strolled through a quaint neighborhood lit by soft street lamps, Lily could sense Daniel's unease. He seemed preoccupied, his gaze flickering toward the ground as they walked side by side. "Daniel?" she asked, breaking the silence. "What's on your mind?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair, the moonlight catching the worry etched on his features. "I've been thinking about us. About what happens next." The lump in her throat tightened as she braced herself for the weight of his words. "What do you mean? I know we've been enjoying our time together, but I can't shake the feeling that we're living in a bubble. The moment we step outside of it, reality hits. You're 16 and I'm, well, much older. It complicates everything." Lily felt a rush of emotions, fear, anger, and sadness all mingling together. "But we're happy, aren't we? Isn't that what matters?" "Of course," he replied quickly, his gaze meeting hers. "But happiness can sometimes be short-lived when faced with the harshness of reality. I just want to make sure we're prepared for what lies ahead." "Do you want to stop?" The question slipped from her lips, fragile and uncertain. "No. Not at all." He took a step closer, his expression earnest. "I want to continue this. I just think we need to be aware of the challenges we'll face. I don't want to hurt you, Lily." His concern felt like a double-edged sword, slicing through the warmth that had built between them. "But love isn't supposed to be easy," she countered, her heart racing. "Isn't it worth fighting for?" "It is," he agreed, his voice steady. "But it's also important to be realistic. I can't be the reason you face backlash or hardship. You deserve a life without complications." Lily's heart sank as she processed his words. The reality of their situation hung heavily in the air, threatening to overshadow the beautiful connection they had forged. What if we could prove them wrong? What if we could create our own path, one where age doesn't matter? Daniel paused, his gaze drifting toward the street ahead, lost in thought. "You're incredibly brave, and I admire that. But it's not just about us. What about your family? Your friends? They're going to have their opinions. They don't have to understand," she replied fiercely. "This is about us. They'll come around. Lily, I don't want to put you in a position where you have to choose between me and your loved ones," he said gently. "You're still so young, and I've lived long enough to know how quickly things can spiral." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around them, mirroring the storm brewing in her heart. "So, what are you suggesting? That we just stop seeing each other? Pretend this never happened?" "I'm not saying that," he insisted, his voice rising slightly. "But I think we need to be realistic. We should talk about our expectations and what we want for the future." The disappointment that settled over her was suffocating. "I want you, Daniel. Isn't that enough?" He stepped back, his expression conflicted. "It's not just about us right now. It's about everything else, the consequences, the judgments. I care too much about you to let this become a burden you can't carry." The words stung, cutting deep into her heart. "I can handle it, Daniel. I can handle anything if it means being with you." "Lily," he said softly, reaching for her hand. "You're incredible, but love shouldn't come with this kind of heaviness. I don't want to be the reason you feel trapped." The tears threatened to spill as she pulled her hand away. "So what now? We just keep pretending everything is fine?" "I'm not suggesting that. I just think we need to take a step back, think this through," he urged, his eyes searching hers. "What does that even mean?" she whispered, her heart aching. "It means we should slow down," he replied, the weight of his words hanging between them. "I want to make sure you're ready for whatever comes next. I care about you too much to rush into something without considering the consequences." The silence that followed felt suffocating. Lily felt the air between them grow heavy with unspoken fears and uncertainties. The warmth that had enveloped them began to dissipate, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. "I don't want to slow down," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I want to live in this moment. I want to be with you. Why can't you see that?" "Because I do see it," he exclaimed, his voice thick with emotion. "I see how special this is. But I also see the risk. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "Love?" she shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. You can't protect me from love, Daniel. It's messy and complicated, but it's also beautiful. And I want to experience that with you. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of frustration and anguish. This isn't easy for me either, Lily. I want you in my life, but I need to know we can handle the world's judgment together. I don't want to cause you pain. The intensity of their emotions hung thick in the air, creating a chasm that felt insurmountable. She could see the turmoil in his eyes, the battle between wanting to be with her and fearing the consequences of their love. I don't know if I can do this if it means we have to step back, she said softly, her heart aching with the thought of losing him. Daniel's shoulders slumped, his gaze falling to the ground. I don't want to lose you either, but I think we need to figure out what we truly want. A heaviness settled in the pit of her stomach, the uncertainty washing over her like a cold wave. So, what happens now? She whispered, her voice barely audible. We take some time to think, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I just want you to be sure about what you want. I need to know that we're in this together, without any doubts. Lily nodded, feeling a mix of heartbreak and understanding. They stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them, both unwilling to take that final step back but unsure of how to move forward. I'll see you around, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. Yeah, she replied, her heart aching as they turned to leave. As she walked away, the reality of their situation crashed down around her. The possibility of losing Daniel loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow everything they had built together. She felt hollow, as if a piece of her heart had been wrenched away, leaving only emptiness in its wake. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between them grew. Lily tried to occupy her mind with school, friends, and the routine of her life, but Daniel's absence left a gaping hole. Each time she saw him in passing, his laughter echoing with friends or the way his smile could light up a room, her heart ached for the connection they had shared. One afternoon, while working at the bookstore, the door swung open, and her heart raced at the sight of him. He looked different, more serious, a burden etched on his brow. Hey, he said, his voice low as he approached her. Hey, she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. How have you been? Busy, he said simply, glancing around the store as if searching for something. I've been thinking a lot about us. Lily felt a rush of hope surge within her. Me too. I miss you, Daniel. I don't want to be apart. He hesitated, taking a deep breath before meeting her gaze. I miss you too, more than you know. But I want to make sure we're on the same page this time. What do you mean? She asked, anxiety curling in her stomach. I think we should talk about how we can face the challenges ahead together, he said. I want us to be a team, but I need to know you're truly ready for that. I am ready, Daniel. I want to be with you, no matter what it takes, she declared, her voice steady. A flicker of hope danced in his eyes, but it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of reality. It won't be easy, you know that, right? We'll face judgment, criticism. Are you prepared for that? I can handle it, she insisted, determination flooding her veins. I want to fight for us. I believe in what we have. His expression softened, the tension easing between them. Okay. Let's take it one step at a time. We'll figure this out together. Lily felt her heart swell with relief and joy as he reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. In that moment, the world faded away, and all that mattered was the bond they shared, the promise of a future together, no matter how uncertain. As they stood there, hand in hand, Lily knew that their journey wouldn't be easy, but together, they could weather any storm. The love they had found was worth fighting for, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Together, they would navigate the tides of change, facing the world and its challenges side by side, carving their own path in a world that often didn't understand them. And in that moment, surrounded by books and stories of others, Lily felt ready to write their own. The days following their reunion felt like a delicate balancing act for Lily and Daniel. With each passing moment, they navigated the complexities of their relationship, mindful of the scrutiny surrounding them. Their friends began to notice their closeness, exchanging curious glances and whispers, while Lily's family remained oblivious, lost in their own world. Despite the challenges, their bond only deepened. They spent evenings sharing their dreams, fears, and ambitions, finding solace in one another's presence. Daniel brought out a side of Lily she hadn't known existed, a passionate, fiery spirit that yearned for adventure and authenticity. Yet lurking beneath the surface was the weight of external pressures, a constant reminder of their unique situation. One Friday evening, while they sat in a cozy cafe nestled in the heart of the city, sipping hot cocoa, the air hummed with excitement. The cafe buzzed with laughter and chatter, the warm glow of lights creating an intimate atmosphere. They had carved out this little sanctuary where they could escape the outside world, if only for a moment. "I found this amazing hiking trail we should try," Daniel said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It's supposed to have breathtaking views at the top." Lily's heart raced at the thought of being alone with him in nature, away from prying eyes. "That sounds incredible! I'd love to." "Great! Let's go this weekend," he suggested, leaning closer, a grin spreading across his face. Their excitement was palpable, but Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their time together was fleeting. As she gazed into Daniel's eyes, she saw a mix of hope and uncertainty, as if he were wrestling with the reality of their situation. "Do you think we should tell people?" she asked tentatively, her pulse quickening. "I don't know," he replied, his brow furrowing. "I mean, I want to be open about us, but I'm also worried about the backlash. You know how people can be." Lily nodded, feeling the weight of his words. "But we shouldn't have to hide what we feel. Love is worth fighting for, isn't it?" "Of course it is," he assured her, his gaze softening. "I just want to make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." As they finished their drinks, Lily felt a surge of determination. "Let's be brave, Daniel. We can face whatever comes our way." The weekend arrived, and the two set off early Saturday morning, their excitement bubbling over as they drove toward the hiking trail. The landscape transformed as they left the city behind, rolling hills and lush greenery enveloping them. The scent of pine and earth filled the air, igniting a sense of adventure. Once they arrived, the trail loomed ahead, beckoning them into its embrace. The journey was steep, winding, and at times challenging, but they encouraged each other with laughter and playful banter. The world around them faded as they climbed higher, the beauty of nature enveloping them. As they reached the summit, the breathtaking view unfolded before them, a panorama of valleys and mountains stretching as far as the eye could see. It felt as if they were standing at the edge of the world, and in that moment, all their worries melted away. "This is incredible!" Lily exclaimed, her heart soaring as she took in the majesty of the landscape. Daniel smiled, watching her with a sense of admiration. "It really is. Just look at how far we've come together." Lily turned to him, her eyes shining with excitement. "This is our moment, Daniel. Just us, free from everything else." He stepped closer, his voice lowering to a whisper. "You're right. No one can touch us up here." As if propelled by an invisible force, they drew closer, the electricity between them sparking a magnetic pull. The kiss they shared was soft and tentative at first, but it quickly deepened into something more profound, fueled by the exhilaration of the moment. The world around them faded, and for a brief time, nothing else mattered, only the two of them, entwined in a moment of unadulterated joy. However, as they pulled away, the weight of reality came rushing back, the gravity of their situation settling over them like a heavy fog. "I wish we could stay here forever," Lily said softly, resting her forehead against his. "Me too," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But we need to go back eventually." "Yeah," she sighed, her heart heavy with the unspoken truth. "We can't hide forever." The ride back was filled with a comfortable silence, but beneath it lay a current of tension. The idyllic moment at the summit had sparked a new resolve in Lily, but she sensed Daniel's internal struggle, a tug-of-war between wanting to protect her and longing for the freedom to love openly. That evening, as they sat on the steps of her porch, the stars twinkling above them, Lily took a deep breath, determined to confront the growing rift. Daniel, we need to talk about what happens next. I can't keep pretending that everything is okay if we're not being honest with ourselves or others. He shifted, his gaze focused on the horizon. I know. It's just complicated. What if the people around you can't accept us? Then we'll find a way to make them understand, she said firmly, her resolve hardening. I refuse to hide what we have. I deserve to be with you openly, without fear. He turned to her, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. You're so brave, Lily. But bravery doesn't always guarantee acceptance. We might face some harsh realities if we go public. I know, she replied, her heart racing. But I believe in us. I believe in love. If we can't be honest about it, then what's the point? Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a mixture of frustration and admiration in his eyes. I just don't want you to get hurt. This isn't just about us. It's about your family, your friends. They'll have opinions. Maybe they'll surprise us, she said, leaning closer. Maybe they'll see how happy we make each other and come around. Or maybe they'll react negatively. He countered, his voice low. I can't help but worry about that. Daniel, she said softly, reaching for his hand. You've shown me a world I never thought I'd experience. I won't let fear hold me back. I want to stand firm in what we have, no matter the obstacles. A heavy silence hung in the air, their gazes locked in an intense exchange. Finally, he nodded slowly, a spark of understanding illuminating his features. You're right. We should be honest. But we need to prepare for the fallout, for what might come next. Lily felt a swell of hope. Together, we can face anything. I want to fight for this, for us. Daniel squeezed her hand, his eyes reflecting the warmth of her resolve. Okay. Let's talk to your family first. We can gauge their reactions before going further. Really? She asked, her heart racing at the thought. Yeah, he replied, a small smile breaking through. We'll do this together, one step at a time. As they made plans to meet her family the following weekend, Lily felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. For the first time, they were taking control of their narrative, ready to face the world on their own terms. The days leading up to the meeting were filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Lily practiced what she would say, crafting her words carefully, determined to convey the depth of her feelings for Daniel. She envisioned the moment, the nervous anticipation, the hesitant glances, the eventual acceptance. When the weekend arrived, she and Daniel arrived at her family's house, the familiar surroundings contrasting sharply with the uncertainty brewing inside her. The air was thick with anticipation as they exchanged quick glances, reassuring each other silently. Are you ready? Daniel asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily nodded, taking a deep breath. Ready as I'll ever be. As they entered the house, the warm aroma of her mother's cooking filled the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter echoing from the living room. Her family gathered, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. Lily! Daniel! You made it! Her mother exclaimed, beaming at them. Hi, Mrs. Carter, Daniel said, offering a shy smile. Lily's heart raced as they exchanged pleasantries, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy while the weight of their secret pressed down on her. Once they settled around the dining table, the conversations flowed easily, but Lily felt the moment approaching, the need to speak her truth becoming more pressing. After dinner, as they cleared the table, she exchanged a glance with Daniel, and he nodded, giving her the strength she needed. Can we talk to you all for a moment? She asked, her voice steady despite the nerves swirling within her. Her family paused, curiosity evident in their eyes. Sure, honey. What's on your mind? Her father inquired, his brow furrowed in concern. Lily glanced at Daniel, who stood beside her, a reassuring presence. We wanted to share something important with you. What is it? Her mother asked, her smile fading slightly as she sensed the seriousness in Lily's tone. Taking a deep breath, Lily plunged into the truth. Daniel and I are together. We're dating. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Her family exchanged glances, the weight of her revelation settling over them. I know this might come as a surprise, Lily continued, her heart racing. But I want you to know that we care deeply for each other. I love him. Her mother's eyes widened in disbelief, while her father looked contemplative. Is this a joke, Lily? Her mother finally asked, a hint of panic in her voice. No, Mom. It's real. I care about him, and he makes me happy. Lily insisted, her voice steady despite the knot tightening in her stomach. I think we should hear them out. Her father interjected, his tone calm but firm. Let's not jump to conclusions. But he's different. Her mother stammered, her gaze darting between Lily and Daniel. Lily took a step forward, a wave of determination flooding her. He's amazing. He challenges me, inspires me, and treats me with respect. I want you to understand that love transcends boundaries. Daniel stood beside her, his presence reassuring. I know this is unexpected, and I'm not here to cause trouble. I care for Lily deeply, and I want to be a part of her life. As the conversation unfolded, her family began to voice their concerns, sharing their fears and doubts. Yet, amidst the tension, Lily held her ground, articulating her feelings with passion and conviction. Slowly, she saw the walls begin to crack. Her father asked thoughtful questions, while her mother's expression softened as she listened to Lily's heartfelt words. The exchange transformed from resistance to understanding, an uncharted territory where love could flourish despite the odds. When the conversation finally drew to a close, Lily felt an overwhelming sense of relief. While her family still had reservations, they were willing to accept her choice, to learn and grow with her rather than cast judgment. As they walked home that evening, hand in hand, Daniel turned to her, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. You were incredible, Lily. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. She replied, a wave of gratitude washing over her. Thank you for standing by me. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but they had taken the first step together, forging a path filled with hope and love. Lily knew that love was worth the struggle, and with Daniel by her side, she felt ready to face whatever the future held. As they arrived at her doorstep, the moonlight bathed them in a soft glow, casting an ethereal aura around them. Lily looked up at Daniel, her heart brimming with affection. We did it, she said, her voice filled with joy. Yeah, we did, he replied, pulling her closer. And this is just the beginning. Together, they stood at the threshold of a new chapter, their hearts entwined, ready to face the world with unwavering courage and love. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they knew that together, they could overcome anything, standing firm in their love and carving a future that was uniquely theirs. As the days turned into weeks, Lily and Daniel navigated their relationship with cautious optimism. The initial shock from their announcement had subsided, and while her family was still adjusting, they were slowly accepting the reality. Her parents asked questions, expressed concerns, but there were moments when laughter and warmth made their relationship feel less foreign, more familiar. Outside the comfort of home, however, the world remained challenging. Reactions from friends were mixed, some were supportive, while others whispered behind their backs. At school, gossip was rampant. Students who once greeted Lily with smiles now eyed her with judgment. Daniel, always protective, encouraged her to ignore the negativity, reminding her that what mattered was their love. One afternoon, as they approached their favorite cafe, a group of girls snickered and pointed at them. Lily's heart sank, anxiety creeping in. Just ignore them, Daniel said softly. They don't understand what we have. I know, but it still hurts, Lily admitted, her voice trembling. I just want to be accepted. Acceptance takes time, Daniel reassured her. We're building something real, that's what matters. His words provided comfort, but the sting of rejection lingered. As they sat in their usual booth, the familiar scent of coffee and pastries filled the air, momentarily distracting Lily from the turmoil outside. How about we plan a weekend getaway? Just the two of us, Daniel suggested, his smile infectious. Lily's heart lightened at the idea. That sounds perfect. Where do you want to go? There's a quiet beach a few hours away. We could explore, swim, and just be together, Daniel said, excitement sparking in his eyes. Lily grinned, her worries momentarily forgotten. Let's do it! The following weekend, they set off early, the anticipation palpable. As the cityscape gave way to the peaceful coastline, the tension of their daily lives melted away. The salty breeze and crashing waves greeted them as they arrived at the beach, and they wasted no time racing into the water, laughter echoing behind them. They spent the day collecting seashells, building sandcastles, and sharing stories, their love growing stronger with every moment. As the sun set, casting a golden glow across the horizon, they sat hand in hand, watching the sky transform into shades of pink and orange. "Thank you for this," Lily whispered. "For making me feel loved and accepted. I'll always be here for you," Daniel replied, his voice filled with sincerity. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the sunset and the sound of the waves, Lily felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite the challenges they faced, their love had become a beacon of strength, a bond that could weather any storm. Together, they were unstoppable.